So, I've already seen this game on Andy's stream, and I know the result, the ending of it, but I don't remember the gameplay specifics. Since it's such an interesting matchup, in my opinion, I decided to watch it again and obviously cast it. So that being said, on the left-hand side, we've got Flame, who's playing for Rivendell and has gone for the 2 Orchard beginning. Let's see what he opts for afterwards. That's gonna be Breland Encampment. The map is Fords of Eisen, the classic version, not the on-lane version. Sadly, but unless we have a time machine, nothing we could do about it. And on the right-hand side, shockingly, we've got Andy, and he's gone for 2 Orc Tunnels. 2 Orc Tunnels into Moria Orc Cave into the 3rd Orc Tunnel. Okay, so that's a bit of a... You know, I wouldn't say... I'm not sure what the standard build is actually in Age of the Ring for Misty Mountains, but usually if you're going aggressive, you do 2 Orc Tunnels and 2 Moria Orc Caves, and then you put the 3rd tunnel, you know, somewhere in a forward position. But Andy is going for the safer option here. Although, you know, I say safe, but he's going for double Moria Orc Cave, which means that had Flame gone for the Dunedain Encampment, and you know, with the cavalry starter, then Andy's first attack probably wouldn't be successful. That being said, Andy, you know, realizing that this is a very risky strategy, he's putting down the 3rd Moria Orc Cave, is sending 1 battalion of Moria Orc creatures with the purpose of just scouting the opponent's base, which is a very smart play, obviously, because if you're gonna send in tons of battalions of Moria Orc creatures, you probably want to make sure that first that the opponent isn't beginning with Cav, and only afterwards send them in. Okay, so interesting. So Flame has put 2 of his orchards in fortress range, although I'm not sure this one is in fortress range. I'm pretty sure it isn't. And 2 of them are in forward positions. That's a very interesting choice. And after 3 resource structures, if I'm not mistaken, he also put down the Dunedain Gathering. So before that, he has built 1-2 battalion of Bounders, and immediately gone for the Dunedain Outriders. This is basically exactly what I would have done in this matchup as well. And Andy, I feel like he's going to get the information on the Dunedain Encampment pretty darn soon. And he is not rushing his attack, which is, once again, the correct strategy. Because these Moria Orc creatures are very susceptible to trampling, especially with the Dunedain Outrider Cavalry, by the Dunedain Outrider Cavalry, rather, which is still, you know, pretty darn OP on the patch 7.3.1. Gonna be nerfed in 8.0, but in the patch that this replay is on, you know, it's way too powerful. So Andy has put a Orc Tunnel, you know, over here as well. Pretty sure it's protected from this side, and this is how you would want to usually put your Orc Tunnels as well as Dwarven Mine Shafts, so that it's protected at least one side by some kind of object or the edge of the map, essentially. Okay, so Flame over here saves his builder with a wall hub and tramples a battalion of Orc creatures over here, as well as 2 battalions are going to be trampled in a second, and 3rd one probably as well. Okay, so Andy now definitely knows that there are Outriders on the field, and that is exactly why he's gone for the Mountain Orc Lodge, because he needs pikes. I would say very clever build orders and opening tactics from both players. You know, Andy, instead of just rushing Moria Orc creatures, XD? Yeah, XD. Instead of just rushing them onto the base, he got the scouting information first, realized that there's cavalry, and only then, you know, decided to go into the base, get whatever he could before the cavalry was out. And on the other hand, Flame despite going with the Breland encampment first, he immediately went with the Dunedain encampment as well, so that he could gain access to the cavalry, because otherwise, obviously, it would have been extremely difficult to get rid of the Moriark's creature rush. Okay, so a battalion of Bounders here is trying to keep Andy's attention back on his base. And on the other hand, Flame already has 2 Dunedain Rangers on the map, which are obviously extremely versatile units. They start off as archers, but in case they get in trouble, which they usually tend to get into in this matchup, because of wind, then you can immediately switch them. Well, not immediately, but in a matter of seconds, you can switch them into either sword mode or pike mode, and both cost 100. And once you get the upgrade, it's permanent. You cannot switch them back, which makes sense. Okay, so Andy has 3 Moria Orc Caves, 1 Mountain Orc Lodge. It does have pikemen in this tunnel, so this tunnel should be saved. Yeah, that is exactly what happens. But yeah, so 700 command points, also taking into account 4 production buildings. And Flame is pushing him at the moment. 2 battalions of Dunedain, Bounders, and also pikes, Breland pikes, basically. On the other hand, what Andy has is just a bunch of Screechers and also Mountain Orc Brutes, is how they're called. Yeah, so this army composition can't do anything to this one, because the archers are obviously gonna shoot down the pikes, and the outriders will just follow up and trample the rest afterwards. So Andy is being pushed right now, but you know, Flame does not have many melee units. Well, he does have. Well, actually, I take that back. He does have 2 battalions of Bounders and also the remnants of the cavalry. And at this point of the game, Rivendell really can't have much more, because all of these, you know, both of these units, the Dunedain encampment units, are pretty expensive. So, is he going to lose the cav here, or will he manage to get out? The cav is poisoned, so not sure. We'll see. Level 2 though. Oh, but he runs into the Screechers again. Damn, that's a big loss. Considering that was his only battalion. Anyway, so lots of stuff happening on the map right now. Flame is trying to push from the bottom side, but I feel like this isn't going to be super successful, because Andy has the double stats buffs, rather 1 buff and 1 debuff, and you know, Flame is fighting on a terrain ability, which buffs the Misty Mountains units, and also debuffs Rivendell units by speed, and also under cave bats, which debuffs them even further. So they're debuffed by damage, armor, and also speed. On the other hand, Misty Mountains is buffed. So obviously, Flame doesn't take a favorable fight over here, but he couldn't really do much about it, because I'm pretty sure if they would try to run away, they wouldn't manage, because they were standing on ice first of all. Yeah, but he does switch one of the battalions to pike, and tries to at least deal some damage to Andy as well, in retaliation, so to speak. Okay, so this Dunedain Outrider battalion trampled what it could, but the wolves are gonna chase them away from Andy's base. Okay, so Flame made a push, but I think he got 2 starting farms over here, almost got this one, but eventually ended up, let's see, well, actually, I wanted to say eventually ended up feeding units, but they're actually equal in power points, so I guess that was worth it. But he is definitely losing the engagement over here. I feel like there was a bit of a misclick, and I don't want to show you who was on host here, because that's such a deciding factor in who wins the game. But if Flame was off host, then those kind of mistakes are expected, because sometimes a move literally just bugs. On off host, you know, when you order your troops to move over here, let's say with a move, they might just run forward without attacking anyone. So that kind of stuff happens. Okay, so I think Andy has I want to say Andy has a hero over here, but that was just the Mountain Rogue battalion leveling up. So Flame is expecting an attack from this side, but Andy's attacking from the top side. And yeah, so command point wise, Rivendell has 650 with almost 400 active army, more than 400 at this point. Yeah. In terms of power points, he's gone for 2 tier 1s, the Rivendell Horde, essentially, the equivalent to a Horde, and also heal. And now can choose to go for either this, which is Remnant of the Old Kingdom, which is like a terrain ability, or the Sons of Elrond, or a summon of 3 random battalions from Middle Earth. So so eventually he chose to go with a terrain ability, which is an interesting choice actually, because Andy isn't really stacking his army; he's attacking from multiple sides. So yeah, this I guess this can counter Misty Mountain's Frozen Wastes, but I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I'm not so sure about that. Which one has a lower cooldown? So the forest obviously buffs you basically twice as hard, twice as better. So it's tier 2, and this is tier 1. So this, the cooldown on this thing should be lower. So I'm not sure that the forest is going to be, too effective. But anyway, got carried away there a bit. So Flame is attacking from 2 sides. Over here with cavalry and over here with infantry. The Dunedain units, and also he was trying to harass over here with bounders. But on the other hand, Andy has also reached tier 2, Trollish Stew, and he summons the Trollish Stew, but which doesn't, help him save this Orc Tunnel. On the other hand, Andy is pushing from the bottom side. Already has his first hero on the field, that is Musgash, and Musgash gives leadership. This is an interesting thing. So Flame put down his terrain ability first, and then Andy covered it. But can a tier 1 ability cover a tier 2? I'm not so sure about that, but visually it does. And the Misty Mountain's units seem buffed, but that might be just to Musgash leadership. So yeah, I'm not so sure. Wins the engagement over here. Not a whole lot of Dunedain units left, and he's up to 1,000 command points. He's spamming really quickly from 1, 2, 3, 5 production buildings, and he's also got his first hero, Musgash. Musgash is already level 3. So on level 1 he grants 15 damage in armor, and at level 8 his leadership becomes even better. And he grants 33 damage in armor to mountain orcs, to Moria, and also mountain orcs. Okay, so half dead, two battalions of half dead Dunedain apparatus over here, and on the other hand, Flame hasn't gone for a hero yet. I feel like he's a bit low on cash, and Andy has captured basically the entire map. And also, he hasn't gone for the first upgrade on the fortress, Untamed Allegiance, before building his hero. So he paid the full cost of Musgash. And yeah, so, and he's also gone for Moria Orc Archers. Very interesting. I see them used very rarely, in competitive games. So it's very interesting that Andy has chosen to go for them. And it's pushing from 2 sides. One army over here headed by Musgash, a couple of battalion of pikes, and then archers, and also the second army over here. And he's also got Lug on the field, who is he one-shotting them? Oh yeah, Lug is one-shotting the Dunedain. That's actually interesting. Ready. So Flame is in a bit of a dire situation right now, I would say, in terms of command points. In terms of, army, Andy's definitely ahead. Flame is trying to divert his attention, though, with these 2 half-dead battalions of Outriders. And Andy is continuing his push Okay, let's see. So Andy has 2 tier 1s, tier 2, and also 12 points. And his built up tunnels all over the map, like literally all over the map, on all sides. And also 2 in opponent's base. Although this is not a tunnel, this one is. Yeah, so this was the second one. And over here is continuing to harass with 2 groups of units. They also got lots and lots of archers on the field, 6 battalions of archers, you know, in his base, and also even more running around with this clump. A bit of miscontrol here by Andy. Feeds, you know, a couple of units of mountain orc brutes to Flame. And that being said, so Andy is playing with 2 groups of two armies essentially. One is headed by Musgash, the other one with Log. Very clever gameplay in that sense as well. So that being said, Andy has, you know, is going to have access to his tier 3 and has maxed out his unit count basically. On the other hand, we've got Flame, whose economy is a bit, you know, a bit worse. I would say significantly worse actually. He doesn't really have that many orchards on the field. He has 2 over here, but they're going to be spotted by Andy over here and deleted. But he has a ton of, you know, Dunedain units, and he also goes for his second tier 2, which I feel like is the absolute correct choice over here because he's in a dire situation. He desperately needs just units on the field, whatever units it may be, because obviously this summons random units, 1 battalion of pikes, archers, and also swordsmen. And in this case, he was lucky because you know, it summoned path stalkers, who are obviously very powerful swordsman units. And I feel like Flame is slowly pushing Andy back at this point. He has maxed out on his command points, although it's not 1,000, it's in this case 800. And he's gone for the library and also gone for Reverence of Yavanna, which is, yeah, which should be, you know, priority number 1 upgrade from the library in most cases. Is he gonna lose a builder here? No, manages to get him away. Very well done. And the Dunedain continue to shoot down, you know, counter the mountain orc brutes very effectively, because obviously archers deal additional damage to pikeman units, or rather, I should say, you know, to be more technical, I should say that pikeman units tend to have less armor from pierce damage. Okay, so Flame is gonna have access to his tier 3. He already has, and once again he uses his terrain ability and Andy covers him. If somebody knows how this works in Age of the Ring, I would really like to know, because that's very important obviously in engagements, and not taking unfavorable engagements for yourself. Righty, so Flame chooses to go with Blessing of Ulmo, which heals friendly units, and also all orchards gain plus 25 armor. Interesting. I've been told that this ability a couple of patches ago used to also buff your economy, but that has been nerfed. So at this point, I'm not exactly sure why he went with Blessing of Ulmo instead of... So he's tier 2, so he had 2 tier 2s, one from the left, you know, left-hand branch, and the other from the right-hand branch. So he could choose basically any tier 3, right? Which would have been the Gandalf summon on the left-hand side, and also the... Oh man, I can't quite remember how it's called. The circle thingy that summons basically ghosts from the past legends. But you know, Flame is very successfully pushing Andy back at the moment. If you just looking at the mini map, he's got troops on all 3 sides of the map, and these aren't, you know, basic troops. They're, you know, tier 2 and tier 3 troops, Dunedain as well as Noldor. And he's gone with the Rivendell Dormitory. Actually has gone for it a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure at what point of the map to look at. There are engagements everywhere. So over here, look with the goblins is trying to, you know, trying to defer the attack. But over the top side, I feel like Andy's gonna make a push here. Although he doesn't really have that many, you know, melee units over there, but he uses his Watcher, which wipes out most of Flame's army. You know, not everybody dies. You can heal these guys on a well, but you know, most of the units do die. And Andy once again pushes with this Moria Orc Archer strategy. Interesting, very interesting. As I said, I very rarely see them in competitive games. Yeah, so Andy repelled his Flame's attack over here and also over here, and he uses Watcher to once again push him on this side. And yeah, Flame definitely needs a well on his base. Already has one, and ooh, that hurts. You know, he could have saved these units, but obviously you can't control perfectly everywhere, especially because he's fighting on 3 flanks right now. Lug gotta be careful because obviously he doesn't really have much armor. And he's making a push, or I should say was making a push over the top side of the map until 2 battalions of Dunedain Outriders came along and trampled basically all the archers. And Musgash is running for his filthy life. Over this side, Lug is pushing, and also Andy has his 3rd hero on the map, which is Golfimbul. Has he graded? Indeed, he has graded the Wolf Cairn or Cairn to level 2, and his building is built up already 3 battalions of them actually, of Gundabad Wolf Riders. But hasn't used them yet, doesn't want to show them. I think he wants to get them united with Golfimbul, who gives them leadership, and only then use them. Okay, so Flame is trying to make the transition to Noldor units to more effectively counter, you know, Andy's, because Andy is basically still playing with tier 1 units, well, except the Gundabads, who are tier 2 units. But Andy is just taking him by sheer number, you know, by sheer mass, and also leadership given by Musgash. And on the other hand, I wanted to say Flame doesn't have a single hero on the map, but he does actually have Halbarad, who is already level 3. Outriders are once again half dead, but that's to be expected if you're playing against Misty Mountains. And over the course of the past few engagements, Flame managed to stack up 20 more power points, has access to his 2 second tiers back, and is going to have his tier 4 quite soon. And obviously the Noldor swordsman units in defensive stance are very, very tanky and not really a match for, I mean, what I mean to say is that the Moria Orcs creatures aren't really a match for them. But, you know, while that's happening, Andy has his 4th hero on the field, and that is Urshak. And, you know, this is standard Misty Mountains gameplay. You know, heroes are central to it. Musgash, once again, tries to save himself. But Flame is repelling Andy's attack once again from the top side, and also has 2 battalions of Makari, you know, the Noldor swordsman, Dunedain, and also a couple of battalions of Cav. On his base, he's got, you know, even more Cav healing, and he's got his 1st battalion of Quingar on the field, or the Noldor archers, you know, very, very good archers. All the Noldor units are super good, you know, tier 3 elite units, super strong, super tanky. So yeah, but on the other hand, Andy is still continuing the harassment. He's got 4, yeah, you heard that right, 4 battalions of Gundabad Wolf Riders under Golfimbul's leadership, who are about to wreak havoc on Flame's economy. And I missed something. Most of Flame's army is over here. He will try to defend with whatever he has on the base, and in the base he actually has lots of units, lots of Cav and also Noldor units. And Flame has access to his tier 4. On the other hand, Andy had access to it a couple of minutes ago already, I would assume, or maybe like 1 minute ago, and he used it over here to take down, I think he took down, if I'm not mistaken, that would be level 3 Orchard, and also Rivendell Dormitory, which was about to be upgraded. So probably not the best use of a tier 4, but he still got something with it. And usually, in most situations, it's advisable that you use your abilities like that, you know, as quickly as possible, even if it's not like 100% effective. You got to use it as quickly as possible so that it goes on cooldown and comes back quicker. So Flame basically has, I think these are 4 battalions of Outriders over here. Should be 4, maybe even 5. Yeah, 5 battalions of Outriders rather, which might seem excessive, but it's the correct choice against the Misty Mountains player who's playing with this playstyle with you know, spamming a lot of Screechers and also a lot of Archers. Then, you know, they get countered, hard countered actually by cavalry, so that's the correct choice. So Andy's continuing to harass with the cavalry under Golfimble's leadership over here. Has an outpost over here as well. And on the other hand, Flame is pushing Andy's base using his tier 2 summon of infantry, essentially, with Noldor, with Dunedain, but once again is going to take an unfavorable fight because Bolg is on the field and he's fighting on. Well, actually, I think he covered over it. You know, visually it's really not understandable, but I think you know, Flame used it later, so it should be covered by his own terrain. And also, his terrain is tier 2, so logically it should. Over here we've got Halbarad just chilling in the base, but despite that, actually, Flame manages to push Andy's production and economy over here very successfully. I think I missed how he took down the level 2 Wolfcar, and also a couple of, you know, Moria Orc barracks, I think is what they're called. Moria Orc cave barracks, I don't remember. Basically, you got the point, the protection building. Yeah, so these Dunedain are trapped here, so let's not look there. They're pretty much dead at this point. So the Outriders are trying to take... I feel like this is miscontrol because Outriders obviously cannot fight with Tom Bill and Bert, I think, right? Anyhow, so 4 or 5 battalions of cavalry, and Andy has captured the inn over here and has gone for Blackrook Marauders and is continuing to harass Flame's economy. And Golfimble with the Gundabad Wolf Riders is proving to be very effective because obviously Flame, I wanted to say doesn't have an access to a mounted hero, but he does actually, which would be Glorfindel, but Glorfindel is extremely expensive and doesn't really provide much value for his price, so that would indeed not be a correct decision to go for him to counter, you know, the Gundabad Outrider spam. But Andy miscontrols here and feeds basically all the Gundabads. That's very interesting. Yeah, he feeds literally all the Gundabads over here. He's not going to be able to save even 1 battalion. But Lug, in the end, uses his ultimate ability, Scorched Earth, which deals heavy damage. Damn. So many units got burned. I love the burning animation in Age of the Ring, by the way. They actually get black, you know, like charcoal. Anyhow, Flame is continuing his attempts to get out his base, but the entire game, Andy has... I think there were like a couple of moments where I remember a moment where Flame was pushing from like 3 sides, but basically from the beginning of the game until this point, most of the time, events were happening in Flame's base. You know, he actually did manage a couple of pushes, especially with this one, taking down Andy's production, which is key, I would say. When you're playing against Misty Mountains, taking down the production is key to stop the spam, or at least hit your opponent's tempos really hard. So yeah, but overall I would say Andy managed to keep just you know, even when he was feeding more units, he was keeping the pressure up, and that's very important as Misty Mountains. As you know, when you're playing Misty Mountains, you never ever want to be on the back foot. You never want to be in the role of a defender, because that's usually going to end up pretty darn badly, you know, eventually. Okay, so Andy is pushing from top side with basically all of his heroes, although Bolg, Lug, and the Bloblin, as they call him, are back in the cave. So only Musgash and also Urshak with a couple of battalions of Mountain Orc Brutes are hanging around here. So Flame, Flame, generally speaking, I would say that going with the Noldors is the correct choice because they're so hard to counter. They're so tanky. They have these built-in abilities, and you don't even, have to upgrade flags on them to gain access to them. But they're also very expensive, and you don't get any discounts on them. So nothing gives discounts on these units, I think. I'm not sure. Basically, even if something does give them, I don't think it's very accessible because I don't think I've seen these units being built with a discount, but correct me if I'm wrong. I might be actually wrong on that. So Andy uses his weather ability. So after his tier 4, he went for Ruin of Angmar and also Wet Winter. And on the other hand, I feel like Flame is going to have access to his fairly soon, or actually not fairly soon. He probably use it again, which I did not notice. So Blessing of Ulmo is on cooldown and isn't going to be up anytime soon. So Andy has a fairly big advantage, in that sense. Let's see what White Winter actually does. Active debuff, 25-20, also vision. Also, it also nullifies leadership, which is the key here. Although Flame doesn't really have anything that gives leadership, does he? Well, except statues, obviously. Halbarad gives leadership, but I can't see Halbarad on the field, and Halbarad's leadership isn't super important, I would say. But yeah, so once again, terrain abilities going down over here, and the Bloblin dying somewhere around there, and these Quingar battalion are level 2, need to get away from the fight, and we've got Strider on the field, finally. Well, I feel like, Flame would have definitely gone, or I would assume he would have gone with heroes much earlier, but he just didn't have the eco for it, He was constantly being pushed throughout the entire game and didn't really manage to save up enough money to get enough eco to get the heroes. Now, on this side of the map, the Noldor are getting pretty badly beaten, by Bolg of the North, which makes sense because Bolg is a faction leader. He costs 4,000, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously he's got really good stats: 3,500 HP, quite good armor, and good damage as well. So once again, Andy is pushing from 3 sides over this side, and also has put down his Reign of Angmar and has put it forward because I think this thing does some nullifying action. Nullifying leadership. But on the other hand, his White Winter already nullifies leadership, so I'm not sure if this was necessary. But anyway, Flame is gonna lose his summoned units over here. Flame is desperately trying to push out of his base, which is obviously the correct thing to do, but I feel like he just doesn't really have enough units to do that. If we look at the unit count, they're basically equal. But Andy has a bunch of heroes on top of it, and that's what's making the difference. Finally, my English came back. Over here, and yeah, as you can see, it's just getting pretty dire for Flame at this point. White Winter helped tremendously, I would say, in terms of the debuff. Not so much the leadership nullifier, because as I said, Flame really didn't have many leaderships, but the debuff is pretty hardcore, and it's all over the map. It's map wide, rather, I should say. So yeah, in terms of, once again, Andy has built tunnels literally all over the map. Like, he's got both flanks. He's just spamming, these orc tunnels, which is exactly what you should do, even when you're leading, and even if you don't need the farms or the tunnels or whatever the faction has for money purposes, you should still continue spamming it, regardless of that. Okay, so Flame is down to a couple of battalions of Noldor, 3 battalions of Noldor, to be more precise, or rather 4, and a couple of battalions of Pikes, Strider, and that's it, I think. On the other hand, Andy doesn't really have much on the map now either, to be honest. He's trying to harass, you know, continuing to harass. He has harassed literally the entire game. And a bit of miscontrol here by Flame. He's got the bodyguard, or this is the summoned one. You know, I think this is, yeah, this is the one that, yeah, Volg gets when he reaches level 7. Okay, so really not sure what Flame can do here, and I just missed the Bombadil summon. Damn, I've also missed Wrath of the Bruinen. Two tier 4s I've missed. Hot damn, this is what casting a game at, let me see, 5:13 a.m. will do to you. Righty, I'm not sure where he used this. Well, we saw that he used Bombadil somewhere over here, probably to take down the production once again. But Andy, just look at this, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 caves. 6, 7, 8. Are you freaking kidding me? 8. That's great. That's actually great. I'm saying, are you freaking kidding me? But actually, I'm saying that, you know, in the best way possible, because this is exactly how you should play Misty Mountains. You know, just spamming the absolute hell out of your units. That's basically your win condition as Misty Mountains. Spam plus heroes, plus correct usage of wind and your abilities, plus timings. Once again, this is becoming tautology. You know, like, you could say that literally for every faction. Like, you know, spamming units, getting heroes, and correct timings are very important. You don't say, man. Righty, so I feel like Volg can solo this entire army. Or can he? Well, I mean, he's using aggressive stance, that's why he's taking so much damage. And also Flame has access to his second tier 3, which is the Gandalf summon, and he's trying desperately to push Andy back, but he's just, once again, he has good quality units, he has very strong units, but there's just not enough of them, you know. I feel like if he, well, he's also down on limit, you know, on command points right now, so he can't really add much units either, many units either, you know. Probably should get another builder. He's going for the Forge instead, probably to Great Flags on his Noldor. And surprisingly, despite all of that, he's slowly but surely pushing Andy back. I feel like both players are probably, yeah, you know, I'm saying this from the prism of my own self here, but are probably a bit tired. Let me actually see if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay, so both players are probably quite tired at this point of the game. The game has been going on probably for around 30-ish minutes, and this is when I personally, this is when I usually start getting quite tired, and my you know, my APM, my macro gameplay, and even my microcontroller unit starts to dwindle. You know, it gets much worse, and I feel like this is the same phenomenon happening to them. So Andy has prepared another pack of units, spamming from, you know, at this point 5 here to 7, 8. Yeah, 8. This one. Orc caves, man. That's the good shit, as they say. On the other hand, Flame has managed is slowly but surely concentrate, you know, getting a critical mass of Noldor on the field. I feel like he's got the archers, which are obviously very, very hard hitting, and he's pushing back from both sides, and he's trying to push from the middle. At this point, has put down 2 orc caves over here, and also ruins of Angmar. And has also gone for Dead of Arnor over here. You know, that's also an interesting choice. We put down this, you know, in a forward position and start using Dead of Arnor from there. Okay, so Andy has access to his second tier 4 finally. I feel like this Balrog is gonna be the end of the game, because he's gonna delete this level 2 dormitory, which means that Flame won't have access to at least the archer units, right? Or only, I think dormitory level 1 is only swords, actually. Yeah, I think archers and pikes are on level 2. Yeah, so once again, Andy's making one big push, not from one side though, on multiple sides, and also controlling the Balrog. That's how you recognize a good player. Both are good players, obviously. Flame was controlling on all flanks equally as well as Andy was. Yeah, really nice replay, I would say. And yeah, Flame really doesn't have much on the field. He has graded his fortress to get access to his one of these 3 abilities. Is still trying to push from the bottom side. Damn, Flame has been trying to push that bottom lane for the entire game, but Andy just keeps out the spam production on point. Even at one point, I noticed that he wasn't spamming much, probably was tired. But after that, probably caught a breath, and then started spamming again. And once again, well, at this point, Flame is CP lock, although he has 700 units on the field, and most of them are Noldor, so his army quality is very high at the moment. Level 5 Queengar who really don't care about Musgash, but yeah, it's just too much. The spam is just too much. Flame has, as I said, probably already like the 5th time, Flame has the higher tier units, the much stronger units, but doesn't really have a mass of units, and also doesn't have the leaderships required to tip this battle in his favor. On the other hand, Andy, it's like probably the 35th or something minutes of the game. He's still spamming the Screechers with the Mountain Orc Brutes, hasn't gone for Gundabad Berserkers, hasn't gone for anything, literally hasn't even built the Troll Den during the entire game, hasn't graded this even once to level 2. Just the basic units combined with the Misty Mountains heroes and also the PowerPoint abilities, it just shows you just how effective that can be, even against Rivendell, which is considered to be a very good faction in this patch, and especially against Misty Mountains. I wouldn't say that this matchup is particularly in Rivendell's favor. I would not say that. I feel like it's a fairly equal matchup in which both factions, depending on strategy choice, depending on control, and depending on skill, both factions can play really well. So yeah, in this particular case, Andy's spam was too much, I feel like. Although, I mean, the game hasn't ended yet. And actually, Flame is making good progress on that bottom lane. He's also got access to his Breath of Manwë. But look at what Andy's doing. Like damn, like he lost the bottom lane, but he's continuing to push from the top lane, and he's building his forward orc caves. And yeah, these, as I said, like the leaderships and the heroes are just too much for these Noldor units at this point. He's continuing to harass with Golfimble, who's already level 8 and has also got access to his ultimate ability, Hatred of the Fair Folk, which is like a mini Glorious Charge. It's actually a full Glorious Charge, the only difference being that Imrahil and also Theoden Glorious Charge give you you reduce your crush deceleration to basically 0. On the other hand, Golfimble Glorious Charge reduces it to 50%, or rather by 50%. Righty, so he's also got his tier 3 over here, which is the Hall of Fire. This is the term that I was looking for earlier in the cast, and I think I characterized it as the circle thingy. Righty, so its actual name is Hall of Fire, which makes sense because the legends that come out of it, the Last High King Gil-galad, the Son of Doom, I'm not sure who that is, the Challenger of Morgoth, and the Smith of Eregion. The Smith of Eregion is obviously Celebrimbor, and the one of these guys should be Turin Turambar. Anyway, so getting carried away once again. So Andy notices the Hall of Fire, has recruited rather the Bloblin, the Great Goblin, once again. He's trying to, or rather he is actually going to take it down. And once again, Flame's units are, you know, caught off position over here. And also, you know, I looked at this lumber mill over here. It's already level 3. I noticed that Andy hasn't really spammed lumber mills. He has a couple of them. 3. I think he has 3, but he hasn't spammed them, which is interesting. Usually I tend to, for all the factions that have lumber mills, I tend to spam them quite heavy, you know. I tend to get, you know, ideally around 5, 6, maybe 7, 8, depending on the situation. Obviously in Age of the Ring, the difference is that they take up command points, or you know, the workers on the lumber mills take up command points, but I feel like in certain situations and for certain factions that can be okay, you know, that can be compensated for getting better heroes, better army composition, you know, and so on and so forth. Flame isn't giving up. Flame is not done in this game. He's gonna fight, and he still thinks he's gonna win, which might still be the case, you know. So he's rebuilt. He's actually gone for a double Rivendell Dormitory, but does he have the eco to support that? Once again, I don't think he has the eco. He's got 625 command points on the map. Once again, he summons the many meetings thingy, which, you know, basically the summon of 3 battalions. Goldfinbull is still running around the map. I don't think Andy has lost him even once, although I might be mistaken about that. But yeah, Andy once again summons the Trollish Stew over here, has graded his fortress almost entirely. You know, he has the Razor Spines, he has a couple of, you know, Goblin Archers on the fortress. But on the other hand, we see that Flame has his Bombado summon back once again, and I'll try to make sure not to miss it this time. Yeah, and he's cleaning up Andy's forward tunnels once again, but it's like, you know, it's like mushrooms in the rain. Like, you get this one, another one springs up over here, and you really can't do much about it. Yeah, so he's gotten the double Rivendell Dormitory, but doesn't really have the eco to support it. He has rebuilt the library, and yeah, only Reverence of Yavanna purchased on it, which makes sense because he isn't really going for the Dunedain strategy, so he really doesn't need the Grey Company. And, you know, from the rest of the upgrades, this can be quite useful. You know, units heal outside of combat. And also, which one it was? The Sleepless Malice, which cost 800, and this used to be, I remember, like, I had played Age of the Ring for like a couple of weeks about a year ago before downloading it again recently. And I remember there was some kind of tournament happening, and a couple of players were abusing the Sleepless Malice, which puts, you know, a couple of veterans of the Last Lands on every production building, both orchards and also the forge. But I think they nerfed it afterwards. I'm not sure, but I think they nerfed it. So I'm seeing it used much less often these days. Okay, so yeah, not much Flame can do here, I feel like, in this situation anymore. He does have the lightning thingy on the fortress, which can be very effective against such clamped armies. But he has like 3 battalions of Noldors, and that's it. And on the other hand, I said I wouldn't miss the Bombado summon, and I fucking missed it, man. Oh man. Here he is. Well, this time there's at least some progress. You know, we saw at least somewhat. Okay, so Bombado managed to take down like a couple of Moria Orc caves. It's probably going to take down this too, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. In fact, that's most likely not going to be enough because Andy used his tier 4 again, and I missed that too. And yeah, this time it was much more effective. You know, deletes both of the Rivendell dormitories, and at this point, Flame is left with 3 orchards essentially and 3 battalions of Noldor. On the other hand, Andy has Andy has caves literally near his opponent's fortress. You know, some of you might say that this is just like, you know, this is like bad manners or whatever, but no, it's just a very effective way to play. That's just what it is. Nothing about bad manners about that. So yeah, Flame is still not giving up, you know. Props for that. He's going for the reland encampment on like the 14th minutes of the game, still trying to stay in the game. And that's actually respectable. Bolg is sitting in the cave for some reason. Muzgash, level 10 already, has access to his token of supremacy. But not sure what kind of supremacy this is. Orc supremacy against man-like creatures, I guess. Level 5 Quingar battalion is about to get eaten by wolves. And this is probably the last push. Flame uses lightning strikes somewhere. Probably around here. And yeah, his fortress is probably about to go down. Not much that he can do about it. But yeah, just to summarize the game, I feel like both players played pretty well. Especially at the beginning of the game, you know, both went with the exact correct strategy against their opponent's faction. There was lots and lots of multilateral, multi-pronged, whatever you want to call it, gameplay on 3 flanks during the whole game, which is absolutely lovely to see. You know, that's the good stuff. You know, that's what makes you know, 1 versus 1 so interesting. Some microcontrol mistakes from both players, but that's to be expected, obviously. Generally, it was a very enjoyable game to rewatch. Even though I had watched it, you know, already on Andy's stream, it was still enjoyable to rewatch, especially because both players are playing on all 3 flanks. All too often, you see everyone just clumping one army and just, you know, banging heads in the middle. It might give you some epic big fights and epic moments, but you know. It's much more preferable to see action all over the map, which we saw in this game. Really good game. Props to both players. And not to ramble too long, I think I'll end it there and see you guys on the next one.